Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video where today we return with round 19 of season 2 of the F123 My Team career mode. Yes, we're back this weekend here at the Circuit of the Americas. Cota returns once more. If you missed out yesterday's video from Cota, probably one of the craziest races we've had in this series. I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. But yeah, today though, we're here with our second of two back-to-back sprint weekends. Of course, it seems a little bit, in my mind, a little bit strange that Formula 1 chucks so many of these sprint races in right towards the end of the campaign. To be honest, it just makes working out the championship a little bit more difficult. But in terms, though, of the R&D upgrades, still a lot more things in the works. We've had no rumours of rule changes still ready for Season 3, but I'm slowly starting to try and plan behind the scenes and maybe save up a little bit of R&D. Championship-wise, Verstappen still leads the way, but that gap now down to just 39 points between him and George Russell with 5 weekends left of the campaign. But I'm sure you could argue, with the form of any of our top 6 at the moment, it really could go any which way. Lewis Hamilton has been looking rapid in recent weeks. Rapid but unlucky, it must be said there. So who will be crowned our second world champion on F123? Only time will tell. 8th overall for us in the drivers' table, 23 points back from Oscar Piastri. 5th in the constructors, though, 19 points ahead of Alpine at the moment. So we're trying to just build up this net of safety as we head into the final few races. But another sprint weekend here from Cota. We need to score good points. Well, I'm tempted as we head into Season 3 to stop showcasing the practice programs. Of course, you know, they're super important early on in the game, but really now a lot of the time it's basically just a good way for me to rant about a couple of the imbalances inside F123, which have sadly been imbalances for years in the Formula 1 games. But yeah, of course, we've got a few other exciting projects coming up in the future. You know, I mentioned in Japan a couple of days ago how August, you know, I think maybe by the time this video's going up, I'm already away on holiday. I can't quite remember for sure just yet, but yeah, I'll get back early August, and then we're really going to be trying to smash out quite a lot of things. Of course, we've also got F1 Manager as well. Very much looking forward to jumping in with that. For those of you that, you know, enjoyed the McLaren career mode on there on F1 Manager 2022, I apologise, I just haven't had the time to finish it. But I'm hoping, obviously, F1 Manager 23 is going to be good fun. You know, I've played the game a little bit, you know, in some beta testing and that kind of thing, and it has been incredibly good fun. But obviously we've got to make sure, you know, I think F1 23 will still obviously be the priority, of course. Not going to try and do, you know, seasons of daily uploads like I am with this game by any means, of course, because we simply don't have enough time. There's only 24 hours in a day, and of course pretty much everything still on the channel is a one-man job. But anyway, through the final corner. Track climatization here is going to be only 10 points away from purple.
Watch the conditions. We think there's rain coming pretty soon. Be careful.
Okay. Don't think I've ever had that message from Mark inside F123, but as we head on to our fuel sim run, really hoping we can pick up a purple here before we go into qualifying. Making our way then through the final couple of turns. Are we going to be able to try and pick up the purple score that I need? We need the R&D at the moment. There we go. Purple, and now we can go into qualifying with a bit of confidence. Heading straight down into qualifying then, right towards the end of Q1. Looks like it's once again going to be a session where just trying to be the last car out onto a lap could potentially give you quite a big advantage here. So that's exactly what we're going to try and do as we make our way out of the final corner. About 5 seconds left on the clock as Max Verstappen just in front of me goes fastest out to the top of the timing sheets. But yeah, going to be a bit of a tough one, obviously, just trying to feel out the conditions here. Let's see if we can make it into Q2 once again. We've had a pretty decent run of making Q2s recently, so I'd love for that to continue. Well, over a second up on Yuki Tsunoda then as we wind our way in towards the final sector of this lap. So far we've done pretty well of just feeding out the conditions, but yeah, of course we should have a bit of an advantage anyway because the track is getting drier and drier. It was full wet conditions early on, but apparently it's meant to dry up by the end of Q3. Whether we'll see those dry conditions, of course, is a very different question. Through the final couple of corners, they're rattling it out over the curbing. Don't want to take any major risks, but out of the final turn up towards the line, that's going to be a 48-1, and that should be us through nicely. And by the time the end of Q2 rolls around, then track has all but dried up here. Still has been an evolving circuit, so it is only, again, one shot, one chance to make it through, but this time around I don't think we're going to have as much of a clear-cut advantage as we did in Q1. So this is going to be a good test to see what sort of pace we have got. Everyone was out there on a set of inters still, but times now being set on the dry, so I'm sure we're going to see a lot of purple times, but will we get one? I forgot to look at the delta time at the end of Sector 2, but we just need to keep pushing to wind our way in towards the final few corners. Looks like the sun just starting to poke through slightly, but it is almost sunset here in Austin, Texas, as we wind our way in the final couple of turns once more. A little bit of front lock in there, but somehow we get the car to the apex nonetheless. Albon on a 33.2. We set a 33.0. Is that enough, or are we P11? It's 12th on the grid. That hurts a little bit, but still a good showing. George Russell once again flexing those Mercedes muscles at the top of the field there. 3/10 clear of anyone, and the only car down into the 131s. But yeah, 3/10 away from making it into Q3, but I reckon we still did have a small track advantage there. But P12 again, we're getting consistent once more with our qualifying laps, and to be honest, I think that's all I can really ask for.
Welcome to today's sprint. This is shaping up to be another fantastic weekend. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's sprint. What a qualifying yesterday for George Russell. He'll start today's race from pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Perez, Leclerc, Sainz, Oscar Piastri, Magnussen, Gasly, Norris, Ocon, Mr. Monaco, Albon, De Vries, Théo Pourchaire, Joe, Bottas, Stroll, Tsunoda, Hulkenberg, Sargent, and Liam Lawson. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We'll soon find out.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
Right, well, here we are then, trackside already for the sprint race here at Cota. Another 10-lap sprint. I'm honestly surprised this one isn't 9 laps, because, of course, the real Grand Prix is only 28 laps come Sunday. But, yeah, Mercedes, once again, at the front of the field there. They really have seemed to have figured out their qualifying pace, but race pace, race reliability is still hardly perfect. P12 for us. We scored points in both races last weekend. I'd love to do the same here. Right, we're ready on the grid then here for the US Grand Prix. 5 red lights. As always, a ridiculously long hole, but it is lights out and away we go there. Oscar Piastri struggling to put the power down, but we're going to try and get to the inside. So we head up towards someone there. Magnussen getting the jump on Charles Leclerc there as we try and make our way through the first corner. And look at that, we have made up a couple of places. Tiny bit of contact with our big rival Oscar Piastri, who drops all the way down to 10th place there. So I think Lando Norris had originally done something quite impressive and then just caught out of the wrong place at the wrong time. But Mercedes streaking away at the front of the field. I can see one of the Red Bulls has lost a place to Carlos Sainz there, and that is Max Verstappen. So Sergio Perez in hot pursuit of those Mercs at the front of the field there. I would imagine Hamilton has been able to hang on to the lead, but when do Mercedes just start saying to him, let George buy for the championship? I know that really any one of those top 6 probably could still win the title if the luck went their way. It's been such a pendulum swing all season long, but surely Mercedes have got to start favouring George as much as Lewis will really not like it. They're down the inside of Pierre Gasly. Kind of a half-hearted attempt in the end, but returning the favour from all of the dives he did to me early on in Qatar last weekend. There was around the outside. We'll try and go. Luckily, this area of circuit really does allow for some side-by-side racing, and we'll make it through them and up into the points by the time we come through the final couple of turns then to finish off lap 1. So that's been quite a good little start here. 10 laps, of course, in the sprint race. Surprised it's not 9, to be honest, because, of course, the real Grand Prix is only 28. But through the final corner, yep, Hamilton, the king of Cota in years gone by, leads the way at the front for now. Already then, just on lap 3, you can see the top 7 just setting off into the sunset here. Carlos Sainz trying to keep Verstappen at bay. Yeah, it really does seem like the top few runners have kind of spread out. So if we want to score points in this one, probably going to be watching our mirrors in the final few laps of this race. But yeah, on the medium tyres, though, they should be pretty safe to make it through to the end. Cota isn't the most abrasive circuit in the world. Often, actually, in previous F1 games, it's been one of the best circuits for tyre life. But yeah, just got to keep doing what we're doing. But yeah, the top 7, I think, have all but checked out. We really are learning late on in Season 2 to pick our battles wisely. Oh, yellow's out. Someone behind me, I think, with issues. It looks to be another Alfa Romeo. So we saw Zhou Guanyu have a mechanical failure last weekend. Is it Zhou again, or is it Valtteri Bottas this time round that appears to be going slowly? As we're almost at the halfway stage of this sprint race. It is Bottas.
Okay, it looks like the problem's terminal. They're retiring the car.
So Valtteri Bottas and Alfa Romeo really have struggled this season. They were unlucky in Season 1 to end up in last place, despite having about the 8th fastest car. But yeah, Season 2, they have really fallen off the development fight.
0 seconds.
More yellows out. It's the other Alfa Romeo. Zhou Guanyu now, I think. No, it's not. It's an Alpha Tauri. Ignore me. Getting maybe a little bit ahead of myself there. One of the Alpha Towers has gone round. But I think they've just span and they've carried on. Whoa! Okay, Pierre Gasly's just tried to turn me down at turn 1, so clearly we're not on each other's Christmas card lists anymore. Luckily, just about able to keep alongside him to make our way into the S. You know what, yeah, there was no way I was ever going to be backing out of that one, matey boy. Just tagged me in at turn 1, and again, just like Qatar last weekend, a day late and a dollar short by Pierre Gasly. So even there, he's trying to look down the inside. He needs to check himself. Okay, 3 laps to go. Sergio Perez now apparently is going to be dropping back towards his teammate and Carlos Sainz's clutches. So that's going to be interesting to see how that all pans out. Whether, you know, perhaps Red Bull are trying to get one of their cars an extra position off of the other. But yeah, it's going to be Mercedes pretty much going to set sail into the sunset in these final few laps here at Cota. But yeah, we're still under a lot of pressure from Gasly, and I wouldn't say we're causing a train. But it might look that way on the mini-map. Whoa, Perez has been about to start the final lap then. Finding a move to the inside of me. We'll get the power down off of the corner. And now he's going to have the DRS on me, so we're going to have to try and defend to the inside there as we head back up towards turn 1. And Pierre Gasly. I don't know why I keep calling him Perez today. We'll just try and hook it up around the outside there. Ocon might be able to try and get involved in this as well, but I think we've hung on for now. They're very, very aggressive defending. Like I said, I don't think Gasly and I are on particularly good terms at the moment. The the Alpine car. Who do I think Pierre Gasly is anymore? I'm very, very worried. But yeah, I think Pierre and I definitely are not exactly what you call close friends at the moment. But anyway, rounding our way then on towards the back straight for the final time. We need to make sure we get the power down to keep him at bay. You can see Carlos Sainz has moved himself up into the podium places, but the Mercs at the front of the field, I think, are still duking it out as we head towards the final couple of corners. I don't know if Russell has completed a move. I don't know whether Hamilton has been able to hang on, but what do Mercedes do late on in this campaign there? Don't know if Verstappen's got the jump on Checo either. Maybe it's a little bit of a Fernando is faster than you, or multi-21 Seb. It's probably more likely down at Red Bull. Out of the final corner, though, it is going to be Hamilton who hangs on for race victory here on Saturday. George Russell will follow him home in P2. Sainz in 3rd. One of the Red Bull cars in 4th, so it is still that big 6 at the front of the field. But Kevin Magnussen, you know, hats off to him. Last weekend's Grand Prix winner did a mega job to stay close. But out of the final corner, we're going to take the last point here in the Cota Sprint. I'm very happy.
And that's the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Fermé.
So let's see what effect this result has had on the driver's standings. Well, not the result our points leader would have wanted, but it certainly makes things interesting going forward. The grid is set then, so that just leaves the race itself. Join us tomorrow where we'll be live with all the action. And until then, goodbye.
Well, there we are then, the end of the sprint race here from Cota, and it is Lewis Hamilton who takes the dub, 4 tenths clear of his teammate George Russell there. Verstappen did get the jump on Checo Perez, and you can see, yep, Charles Leclerc, Magnussen and myself rounding out our top 10, with only Valtteri Bottas unable to make it to the flag there. Lawson, good job done by him to recover up to P17 when all is said and done there. But it means the gap at the top, 37 points down to now between Verstappen and George Russell. Mercedes look quick, though, this weekend. So are we going to see that gap potentially come to under a race wins margin once more? Let's find out. Let's get into the main event.
Here we are then in one of the fastest growing cities in the United States, the fabulous Austin in the great state of Texas. The circuit itself, 14 miles southeast of the city centre, has been home to the US Grand Prix since 2012, the latest in a long list of iconic tracks to have that honour. We're racing then today in Travis County, Texas, around the 20 corners of this wonderful circuit of the Americas. We'll be reaching speeds of around 200 miles per hour here today, and there are plenty of good opportunities to pass, especially through the 2 DRS zones into turn 1 and the long back straight into turn 12. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and starting next to them is George Russell. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Verstappen, Perez, Leclerc, Magnussen, Mr. Monaco, Gasly, Norris, Oscar Piastri, Théo Pourchaire, De Vries, Ocon, Liam Lawson, Hulkenberg, Stroll, Tsunoda, Sargent, Joe, Albon, and Valtteri Bottas begins the race from the back of the grid. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track. And joining me again for the race today, Natalie Pinkham. Let's talk about Mr. Monaco. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within the team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do. And that has definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
Well, a return to the podium last weekend was absolutely fantastic, but I think unless we get a miracle here, probably not going to happen again on F123, at least not today. But that being said, I don't think I was expecting that at Cota last weekend until about 3 laps to go. At Qatar last weekend until about 3 laps to go anyway. A lot of cars on softs, so we're not on a particularly aggressive strategy, but hopefully we can make these medium tyres work. Just not really finding the softs and mediums has a particular advantage at a lot of venues. Well, I'd like to think we might be able to challenge Kevin Magnussen early on here. We know he had the pace to match the front runners yesterday, but if I can just get ahead of him at the start and then cause a bit of a train, maybe that's just going to be our game plan in these final few races of the season. I say that last weekend at Qatar, we're actually able to match the front runners early on by virtue of them just squabbling with each other incessantly. But Hamilton on the pole, then Russell alongside him, and their big title rival Max Verstappen lining up P4 there. Mercedes still trying to close down the gap to Red Bull in the constructors. 5 red lights though. And it's the lights out, and away we go there as Magnussen. Fantastic getaway. Sergio Perez comes to cover off Charles Leclerc. Russell's gone nowhere. Sights up to P2 then, and are we going to see George try and keep the nose up the inside down at turn 1 there? He needs to stay ahead of Verstappen off the launch, and it doesn't like he has as Magnussen all the way up to P3 there. Mega start by the Dane, who clearly got the taste for winning last weekend and doesn't want to give it up just yet as Hamilton leads the way from Carlos Sainz there. Magnussen, George Russell and Max Verstappen, then Perez down to 6th, Leclerc down to 7th off the getaways. It looks like the Mexican is also on a set of the medium compound tyres. We were under a lot of pressure from Lando Norris. Tailport Chair has moved himself up and inside the top 10 as well off the getaway. So a lot going on then off the start. Verstappen as well is on a set of mediums, but already Magnussen, despite that strong start, seemed to be under a bit of pressure from George Russell as we head down the back straight here. Already to the outside goes Georgie boy, and to be honest, on Kevin Magnussen, that's probably not a particularly safe place to be, but he's going to try and swoop round him as Leclerc trying to go for the same thing on Sergio Perez. He's pulled it off, so has the Merc up the road. So Russell has only lost one place then in all of the commotion there, as we almost lose complete control of the car through the next couple of corners. I was looking for a metaphor, but I couldn't find one. Just winding our way then through the final couple of turns of lap 1. Any hope I had of trying to keep up with Magnussen, I think, has gone all but immediately then this afternoon. We do not have the pace to match the front runners here today, unless they're on like a 2-stop or something wacky like that. But Hamilton leads the way at the end of lap 1. Carlos Sainz still in hot pursuit as Russell back up to P3. Towards the end of lap 2 though, DRS is about to be enabled, but we are absolutely not going to have any of it early on today. Already 2 seconds back behind Sergio Perez there, as Lando Norris and I starting just to inch away from Teo Porcher at the end of the top 10. Haas, I'm sure, would love to score points here as Stroll. Clearly something has happened to him, had to box at the end of lap 1, so he's probably in for quite a lonely afternoon unless we get a safety car. Safety cars aren't uncommon here though, remember. We had 2 last season in the GP, which allowed my 2-stop strategy to almost get us to a podium. The less I speak, the better on that one. If you missed out last season's US Grand Prix, would definitely recommend going back, finding it and giving it a watch. But Hamilton already doing what he did in the sprint race yesterday, just trying to pull away at the front of the field. But really, yeah, from Sainz down to Sergio Perez, that is a big train of cars there. It's not getting the run we needed out onto the back straight. I think Lando Norris is going to say thank you very much. And yeah, we've got to, again, pick and choose our battles wisely this weekend. So if we can just stick with Lando, well, that might not be too bad there, as the McLaren breaks a bit earlier there than I was expecting. A lot of battling going on behind me with Esteban Ocon and Oscar Piastri, so we're going to try and use this to our advantage and just latch on to the back of Lando Norris early on today. That McLaren is looking racy on those soft compound tyres, but it should be about lap 7, lap 8, I reckon, where we start to see a transfer of pace between them having the advantage to me. So if I can just stay within the range, I'd be very, very happy. And I'm already having to start to think strategically then this afternoon. Of course, we want to be ahead of Lando before the pit stop, just because he's obviously going to probably undercut me by a lap or 2. But we're already building up a nice healthy margin from Oscar Piastri and Esteban Ocon behind. That gap's going up every single lap at the moment. So Lando Norris clearly once again is absolutely flying, as I think Magnussen, yeah, is really now causing a bit of a train, as the both Mercs are romping away at the front. Ah, okay. Carlos Sainz then with issues early on here, so that might explain why some of those front runners are starting to struggle a little bit. So Lando Norris and I have got to keep pushing on, and maybe we can try and latch onto the back of a couple of them. Well, Lando Norris clearly has caught wind of Carlos Sainz with issues as well, and he's now got the bit between his teeth there. You can see the Ferraris side by side on the run up towards turn 1, but Lando Norris trying to push on ahead of me. You can see we're having to try and push just to keep up. Like now losing another place to Sergio Perez. Oh, that was scary. I thought we were going into the back of Lando Norris there, but we just about get away with it. So Sainz has actually done quite an annoying job, I think, for a lot of other drivers here, in which he's spread out a lot of the front runners. So, I mean, that works nicely for Mercedes, of course, but they've still got Magnussen acting as a bit of a rear gunner from Verstappen. I'm sure Leclerc wants to get ahead of the Red Bull as well if he wants to keep any outside chance at a world title as well here. But this is so weird, the way this championship is going at the moment, because hypothetically we could go into the final race where 6 cars have a shot at the crown, but just based on the laws of averages, we know a couple of them aren't going to do it. As here goes Norris then to the inside of Carlos up in towards turn 1. We know it's mathematically near impossible for it to happen, but you just don't know which ones it's going to be yet that aren't in that fight. As Lando now squeezes by, I'm going to try and make sure I lose as little time as possible to Carlos as we head through the next couple of corners there. As actually the Ferrari not looking so uncompetitive through the twisty bit, so maybe he's got a straight line speed issue as we wind our way through. Either that, or as soon as Lando Norris has made it by, Carlos Sainz seems to have fixed the mechanical issue. No, he definitely hasn't there. You can see how slow he is down the hill. But we need to make sure we slingshot him and get back within the range of Lando as well then, because I don't think Carlos is going to have the DRS off the McLaren car in front of him. No, he is not. So as we try and get, to the inside of Carlos Sainz there, a little bit of moving around, which I'm not too sure why, and he's got those issues. But we're back into 8th then of this race. I'm amazed more of the AI therefore didn't try soft compound tyres in the sprint race yesterday, because all of them seem to be doing more than 10 laps on the softs now. Very, very weird the way the strategy works sometimes inside F123, but yeah, we're just trying to stay with Lando at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to peel in. I'm actually peeling around the same time I do, to be honest, but whether he went a couple of laps early onto a set of hards. But yeah, just trying to hang within the range for now. Sainz has dropped to about 2 seconds back, but that gap seems to have all but neutralised, so I would not be surprised if he comes flying back past us soon once Ferrari get those issues sorted. But yeah, getting closer and closer to the pit window now. That's going to be interesting. First car into the pit lane then. I think that is Lewis Hamilton from the race lead, so that's quite an early pit stop to be making then this afternoon, as Leclerc also diving in. So are those two going hards then for the end of the race? Yes, they are. So that's interesting then. A bit of split strategy by the AI. Some doing soft medium, some doing soft hard. And of course, a couple of us as well trying to do the medium hards to the flag. But Hamilton's actually done a very good job there. Looks like he's coming just ahead of Sainz as yellow flags out Lance Stroll. His nightmare race looks to be coming to an end, not even a halfway stage. So another Ferrari power unit with issues here at Cota. And could that bring out a safety car this afternoon? Doesn't look like it is. But if we've got another yellow flag quite soon after, things could change very quickly. And I'm getting a little bit conscious that Lando Norris is probably going to peel into the pit lane, so I want to be ahead of him before he does that. Down the inside of Lando Norris will go. This doesn't help Hamilton out, watching two of his fellow Brits fighting it out just in front of him, but you know, every little bit of time, every little bit of distance could make all the difference between Lando and I. If he pits in, say, a lap earlier than me or something like that, I would have thought we're going to see Russell peel into the pit lane at the end of this one, which we are, so he might also be going on a set of hard compound tyres to the end of the day. But yeah, Stroll, that car probably does need picking up. It's not really in the firing line though, so I can see why they haven't safety carred it. There's more cars into the pits, including Lando Norris behind me. So Lando, Kevin Magnussen, George Russell all into the pits. I'm going to peel in at the end of this one, so we need to try and push on. Well, Hamilton is no doubt going to fly past me on this back straight, but how easily is he going to be able to do it then? Is George Russell onto a set of the mediums to seem to the end? Kevin Magnussen's gone hard, so there's definitely some split strategies this afternoon. Not really too worried about Hamilton at the moment. Oh, he does make a little bit of a mistake though down at the end of the back straight, and this really doesn't help me out. Come on, Lewis, I'll let you by. I made it easy for you. And now you're holding me up as George Russell is going to be in hot pursuit of his teammate. What do Mercedes do? I would not want to be Toto Wolff right now. Just heading through the final corner though. We are about to peel into the pit lane. Both Red Bulls staying out there for yet another lap, but can't help but feel like we will have been jumped by Lando Norris, but there's still a big gaggle of cars actually. So if Norris is at the front of that group, then I think we've been jumped. If Norris is embedded in that group and it's De Vries at the head of it, then we might be okay here. Just bolting on that set of hards to see us through to the end. And it was De Vries at the front of that group, so that works out beautifully actually. We might still be ahead of Lando Norris in this GP as we'll try and put the power down. There goes the Alpha Tauri of Yuki Tsunoda, and there goes Lando Norris down the inside of him. So Oscar Piastri as well, of course, on a set of hard tyres. So we've actually lost out a little bit in all of this. We're going to be on hards to the end as Gasly, he must have had a nightmare here to be a pit stop behind me at the halfway stage, but Lando Norris has squeezed by, so we need to try and go in pursuit of him. But yeah, Tsunoda, you can see there trying to hold up here Gasly as best as possible, his former teammate. These two very, very good friends, but I wonder if that's going to change by the end of this weekend. We need to get a good run out onto the back straight there, as that's beautiful. Gasly down the inside of Tsunoda, as long as we don't get caught up in it all. Hopefully we're going to be able to try and get past him there. There's much more grip than Yuki off of the corner. Gasly's still actually got the DRS though, so we're going to have to really slipstream him as we head down this back straight. Are we going to be able to get to the outside? He's going to defend it, yeah, but he doesn't want to give anything up at the moment. And he will hang on as Lando Norris 2 seconds up the road. So we might have to say goodbye to Lando today. Come on then, Gasly can't afford to sit behind the Alpine for too long. We've already lost a second to Lando Norris up the road as Gasly again has just about got enough at the top of the hill there, but a bit of a lock-up by the Frenchman. We'll muscle our way past him in the end, and now we want to try and get him out of the DRS range so we don't have to worry about Oscar Piastri behind me. Sergio Perez then into the pit lane as we round out of the final corner, turn 20, and are we going to see Lando Norris potentially get a jump on the Red Bull? Not quite. But yeah, Oscar Piastri still doing Pierre Gasly doing a good job defending from Oscar Piastri. There's an apex there at turn 1. Don't know if any of you knew that. I certainly didn't, based on that line. But yeah, we've got to hope Gasly can keep Oscar at bay for a bit longer. I think Pierre's actually on a 2-stop, which would explain why I thought he was a pit stop behind me, because there's no way he's been able to take the softs this far. But we might be heading into a bit of no man's land in the second half of this race. The Sats in P8. I think Pierre Gasly has peeled back into the pit lane then, so less than 10 laps to go. And now we've got Piastri, Sainz and Ocon all in hot pursuit. Lando Norris has been very lucky. He was able to hang on to Perez for a few laps in the DRS and just sit with him, as that is not the line through the end of the S's. But yeah, we've got a 4-second advantage to some slightly quicker cars. To be honest, in this situation, I'm quite happy to have quite a lonely end to this race, but we'll wait and see. Well, heading into the final quarter then of this GP, we can see Sergio Perez, Charles Leclerc duking out a little bit further up the road. Max Verstappen has made it back to P3 then, so Mercedes aren't going to be able to take a huge amount of points out of him, but they still should be bringing that gap the right way come the end of this weekend. And of course it's as well the bigger picture of Mercedes versus Red Bull versus Ferrari in the Constructors. Are Ferrari just having an off weekend, or are they starting to show some cracks in a bit more traditional Ferrari style, which we missed out on last year? The gap to Oscar Piastri behind me is staying pretty level around the 4-second mark, but Lando Norris has been a man on a mission today. Only a couple of seconds away still from those front runners as Magnussen down to 4th. We're heading on to the final lap then here of the US Grand Prix, and yeah, really since the pit stop window, it has been quite boring. To be honest, the sprint race as well wasn't particularly exciting, so you know, I'm more than happy to be proven wrong when the real-life US Grand Prix comes round. But Cota, I mean, it's delivered some good racing today, but hardly any dramatic racing, at least for us. Anyway, but that being said, though, I want to give a shout-out to my teammate Liam Lawson. It might not be the performance he put in at Singapore, but comfortably ahead of a big gaggle of cars at the rear of the field today. It does finally feel like Lawson is starting to click just a little bit more. But as we round our way in towards the back straight, it looks like, I think it's George Russell at the front of the field who is going to carve down the gap to Verstappen by another 10 points here. Is this again deja vu for Red Bull, where it all starts to fade away right at the end? It might not be Ferrari this year. It looks like it's going to be Mercedes out of the final corner, though. It is going to be, I think he's running out of fuel, but George Russell will win the US Grand Prix. Hamilton will follow him home in P2, so an all but perfect weekend for Mercedes in terms of points there. Verstappen will round out the podium ahead of his teammate Sergio Perez, and gutted for Kevin Magnussen, who spent so much of this race up inside that top 3 and looks like he's going to walk away with a 6th place finish when all is said and done there. Lando Norris, a valiant effort by him to come through for P7, but in towards the final couple of corners we managed the pace really well. We scored points in both the sprint and the main event last weekend, and we're going to do the same here at Cota as well. We are back, and I really could not be any happier.
Alright, race over. Take care of the car on the way in.
A truly magnificent drive and a great performance from the entire team, securing victory here in Austin. So Natalie, what do you think helped them deliver this result?
Quite simply, a driver is nothing without the team behind them. So, a deserved winner, but we do have to give a shout out to the team in the pit lane and back at the factory. Very much a collaborative process.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take the top spot, a well-earned victory for Mercedes. Let's have a look then at the drivers' standings. The gap at the top of the championship has been cut down after a difficult race today for our championship leader. So then, Natalie Pinkham, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
Max Verstappen seemed to just effortlessly weave through the other drivers today without a care in the world. He was definitely my driver of choice.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. It was a tough race for our championship leaders who lose ground at the top of the table. It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action. I can't wait to see what's next.
Well, there we are then, the end of the US Grand Prix, or the Texas Grand Prix apparently, inside F123, and yet Mercedes the full hog of 59 points this weekend there. Red Bull, I think, might be starting to get just a little bit nervous. George Russell, a 134.001, fantastic pace shown by the Brit there, beating out Lewis Hamilton, and Red Bull could barely get within 15 seconds of him come the checkered flag. Charles Leclerc beat out Magnussen, Norris and myself there, with Piastri and Ocon rounding out the top 10, and yeah, Carlos Sainz, those mechanical issues early on, he never really could recover from there. Lawson, like I said, P13 for him. It's not points, but it is a good result, and that means championship-wise 26 now. That gap down to at the top of the table. Perez, 2 wins behind his teammate, 52 points back, but of course we've still got one more sprint weekend before this season is down and out. Hamilton now up to P5 ahead of Carlos Sainz as well, but had he won that race at Singapore, of course, all those other drivers in front of him would have obviously scored less points. Hamilton could be 40-odd points back from the title with just a few races to go. Magnussen, starting to get a little bit nervous about him. The gap 31 points as we head into the final few rounds, but he has been looking incredibly racy in recent weeks there, and constructors-wise, we're just still inching away from Alpine behind us there, but 46 now, the gap between Mercedes and Red Bull as we head in towards the final 4 races. Thank you all so much for watching this video as always. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure to leave a like, get yourself subscribed, and we'll be back very, very soon when Formula One returns next time in Mexico. Good memories from that weekend. Hopefully we can do it again.